All right, guys, we had technical difficulties. Something pulled us off the air. Welcome back. We're back live. So tonight's guest is Derek Giddings, and he shoots for HK. That's all I have to say. And this should be a wild show. All right. And before we do that, we're going to thank our sponsors. And the sponsor is Saber Team Tactical. And that is the company that hosts the show. And type in Saber Team Tactical to the top right hand corner. And can I go to that? Nope. And go to
Gremlins out tonight, bro.
Oh my god, dude. Let me pull that down. And go to saberteamtactical.com.
Yep, and we offer a multitude of classes during the year.
Right.
We're at the end of our year. November 12th is our last class, and we are almost booked. We got 5 people in that class, I believe, 4 or 5, somewhere in that area.
No, I don't have that. I got 4 openings. I still got people.
Okay, so
yeah, I got
looking
4
at the
openings.
reverse again.
Yeah.
Well, that'll work.
And there you go.
Yep.
All right. Type in classes. And go ahead, Al.
Yep. So our main one, our bread and butter, is the one-on-one training. We do a lot of one-on-one training. We work with all individuals. I was just asked today in reference to how you work with intermediate shooters. We make intermediate shooters better shooters. We make beginners safe, sound shooters. We bring you in. We have an assessment that we run on. And after we run that assessment, we figure out where you are. We have experience with people who never shot a gun before. We have experience with people who are competitive shooters, like our guest today. And we work with those people. Not to say that we're not master shooters. We remember we got in trouble with that one. We're masters at teaching. Yeah. We're masters at teaching. Let me say it that way. So we can watch you and help guide you into where you need to go and give you some tidbits on that. As I said, our last class of the year is going to be the rifle and gear class, rifle and tactical gear class. So if you bought anything during the year and you want to see if it works and how it works and learn how to make it work better for you, show up.
Right. And that class, I have to say again, that class is a beginner's class. You can be an intermediate. I mean, not a beginner's class, it's an advanced class. My mind is on whatever.
Dude, we are both going the opposite direction today, but we're good together.
And we'll get it together. And that class is advanced class. If you're an intermediate shooter and you know how to function and operate your rifle and gear and primary, secondary, that's fine. If you come to the course, but we're going to test you to see where you are. So, be truthful about your skill level when you come out there, because it's going to be found out and tested.
Yep.
And if you're not up to par and your safety risk, I will ask you to leave the class and come back to some other classes before you can do this again next year. So this class is actually a class that was developed while I was on active duty. We used it on active duty, a lot of the tactics. So this is true stuff. This is not joke. The only thing I did was downsize some of the tactics to a civilian level. And with that, go to the online store. We got swag up there, and also I got a bunch of swag. I make let's see, plaques. Let's see, I'm gonna pull that down. You can go to the swag store, get some Saber Team tactical gear, medical supplies. Take advantage of this store, because depends how the winds swing on November 8th. Either the store is going to be there or it's not. So take advantage of stuff now. Also, too, I run a secondary business where I make, let's see if it come up, plaques.
Right, there you go.
There you go. And so this is another business, Saber Team Tactical Engraving. This EMT plaque. If you can feel it, it's got deep ridges and stuff in it, and it's a nice little plaque. And with that, let's go ahead and bring in our esteemed guests. And let me get you situated here, Derek, with all the beautiful setting up. Look at that. All right.
There you go.
All right. He's there. My man, Derek Giddings. Go ahead and introduce
yourself. Alfonso. Get out.
All right. Yeah. Oh, a few guys are already happy about it. And we'll put all this stuff on there. And you know who that is, but don't say his name, Derek. Remember, we talked about him. And
Uh-oh.
yeah.
I call him Agent X.
Yeah.
Yes. We like covert ops, don't we?
That's
Right.
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 We do.
Right. So go ahead and introduce yourself, Derek, and tell us who you are, what you're about.
My name is Derek Giddings, and I represent HK, Heckler & Koch, German firearms company, in various competitions, including USPSA, IDPA, three-gun, tactical games, run-and-gun events, action pistol, U.S. Arms, different rifle matches, sub-gun matches. I mean, pretty much where you can shoot at HK, I'm ready to compete. So that's me, Mr. HK.
Yeah. HK it is.
That is.
Yeah.
And you and I have known each other for what, about 10, 11 years?
Yeah. We have for about 10, 11 years. We've been knowing each other a very long time.
Am I
We
correct in saying it
met,
was probably
met
IDPA or GADPA
yeah,
first?
we met at GAPTA at Sharpshooters in Alpharetta. And I had first got into it. I think
R.I.P.
it was
Kappa. You gotta
RP,
say
yeah, he's dead
R.I.P.
now.
Kappa.
Right.
It was
Pay
I first started
respects.
shooting in 2000, either 11, in between 2011 and 12, when I saw the match, because I joined Sharpshooters around that time, and I saw the match up on the wall, and I said, "What is that?" And somebody said, "Well, you can go in there and shoot all this other stuff." And so I went down there, and I was like, "Okay, I'll be here when the next one comes." Went down there and shot terrible because I didn't understand what was going on, and I just like I loved it. And I saw you guys coming in and shooting. Everybody was very helpful, and it was an amazing uh, group of people that you meet, and uh, it got me started on a whole different journey. You know, I wouldn't be here where I am today if it wasn't for Sharpshooter in that first match. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I would
I
have
can say
went
the
to
same thing. Yeah.
yeah, I would have went to a different route in life. You know,
Right.
and
Special time.
yeah, because I was looking for something. I had got out the army in '99, and it took me 3 years to get over a lot of stuff in the mentally, and I didn't know what to do with myself at that point. So I was trying to figure out what can I do,
Mm-hmm.
and that leveled me out and led me to that path. And this also too, I want to tell you guys this show is strictly broadcast on YouTube tonight. No other sites that it'll be broadcast on, but I will share the link on Facebook and LinkedIn. If you want to share it, Derek, I put the link in the chat.
Okay, awesome.
And so how do you get into competitive shooting?
Yeah, so I guess you and I probably really got started close to about the same time. I didn't really get started in competitive shooting until 2008. And it was shortly after my father died that I think I got some hunting rifles from him and some pistols that my mom said, "Hey, just get these out of here." And she had her little home defense pistol and didn't want the other stuff. And I sold some of those guns off. Wasn't much stuff, and bought a couple different things. And one of those was a Glock 17 at the time, and that was when I was a member at Riverbend Gun Club. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like shooting paper, and
Mm-hmm.
I kind of saw they had action pistol and some other things. I got started in action pistol, and I remember going to my first event and being absolutely horrible, and talking to people there that beat me pretty bad. That
Yep.
being a competitive person, I was bound and determined to go back the next month, a new man, and
Right.
set some things straight. So.
Right.
2008 is kind of when that addiction started, and then that kind of turned into shooting three gun, a lot of three gun that Riverbend had, a lot of local matches. If you remember back in the day, there was a lot of
Mm-hmm.
three gun stuff going on
Yeah.
here. And then that kind of, like you talked earlier, Sharpshooters in Roswell opened in 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
And they hosted IDPA. And that's when I got into IDPA and quickly got really, hooked on that. I liked the idea that it pretty much embraced concealed carry, and you could go for a couple hours at night with a limited round count and get some great practice, real practical shooting skills.
Mm-hmm.
Speed and accuracy really mattered, and all the stages were really kind of designed around carry type situations. So that was very addictive, especially to have a night a week out, like as a guy's night, where you could go shoot and compete and have some guy time. I've got two daughters, so having a house full of girls at the time, it was nice to just go be with the guys. And
Mm-hmm.
then, by 2014, took off in USPSA and joined the HK shooting team officially in 2015. And, just shot all kinds of stuff since then. Just, the addiction got worse, as you can attest to, right? It's just,
Right.
it's one of those things that you become a student of the game and you constantly seek to get better and expand your horizons. And the fun and the learning curve just never seems to end.
Mm-hmm. So did HK tap you to be on their shooting team, or did you?
Yeah, so it's kind of a bit of both. In 2015, they revamped their sponsored shooters program, and that's where everything became official, and they kind of went a whole new direction with things. And it's been, we've had some turnover since then, and now I think we've got really kind of 4 long-term competitors. We've had some other people go off and raise families, and now we're kind of living in a time where the competitive shooting world, I would say, and you guys can tell me if you agree or disagree, but it's kind of at a lull compared to years back for lots of reasons that we could talk about.
Right.
So I think it's kind of in a good spot right now.
Yeah, and speaking of that, we'll go ahead and that segue into my next question. Do you see competitive shooting as ideal for real life scenarios?
Okay, so that's always that seems to come up in various forms, right? So kind of back to what I said about IDPA. I don't think competitive shooting is like the ideal. I think it's an enhancement. I think competitive shooting, you get to practice and do all the things that you have to be good at should you have to defend yourself, whether it be drawing fast from a holster, right? I mean, you study self-defense shootings, and the guy to get rounds on target first, the fastest and most accurate, is going to typically win that fight, right?
Right. Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
Draw speed or gun manipulation skills, etc. I mean, all of that is in competition shooting. But to answer your question, I think it's a complement to it, but there's all kinds of training that exists, and I've been fortunate to really get some hands-on experience in scenario-based training through my experience at WAFT, which is West Orlando Firearms Training in Orlando, Florida.
Right.
And to participated and put my family through some of the scenario training where you're literally in a scenario and they design those scenarios to your skill level. So if you're a carry person, you're going to have a firearm. If you're not, you're going to have a scenario where you don't have a firearm, and then that will encompass all kinds of defensive skills for whether it be using a flashlight, pepper spray, or a firearm. So it's scenario-based training is really something I've seen as like, wow, something that what a great thing for whole families to do, just so they can all be good team members.
Right. Yeah, it's a great product where you can learn your flaws.
It's a different mindset to be a defensive situation than it is just a competition where they're not shooting back or trying to stab you or maim you or something like that.
Right. The only issue for the business side is we can't get any insurance companies that will cover us because we teach it, especially if you're shooting sim rounds. And
it's harder and harder. There's some out there. As a trainer, we have to have some of that. So there's some. I'd imagine just you got to know who the ones are that cover it, like anything.
Yeah, and it's where it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg,
That's right.
So because the average policy is about $1 million, and that's where you need to start out with, because if somebody gets hurt, lose an eye, I know several organizations or institutions that used to teach force on force would have had some people shot in their throats, people got killed in the range, and that is a messy nightmare because it all could have been prevented if they just did a couple of things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
One of the first scenarios I did, the owner of Loft, Philip, I was getting in a car and he came out of nowhere and tried to jump me. And I got out my gun really quick, but I put some of the UTM rounds right through where his side plate was.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
He didn't expect me to get on the gun that quick, but I ended up getting him in a bad spot. And like you said, boy, he had some marks.
Those rounds do hurt.
Yeah.
If you don't watch it, they will peel the skin off you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It looked good. I felt bad. He said, don't feel bad, but I did.
Yeah. But that's some excellent training. So do you carry concealed outside the shooting competition?
Well, what would you think?
Good answer.
And I don't carry a clock either.
Oh,
Right, I know.
boo.
I mean, he rocks them HKs. What is your? Well, we'll get to that. So,
from a carry standpoint, though, I mean, the HK makes one of the best carry guns, the HK VP9 SK. It's a beautiful carry gun.
Look at this guy.
I don't like him, man. I'm already I'm on the fence with that gun right now, and I don't need it, but I'm probably gonna buy it by the end of the week.
So it's a fantastic gun. Absolutely fantastic gun. And the other thing that I think is really important that, from a carry standpoint, I've learned a lot of skills with flashlights. I've learned, pepper spray techniques. And I think, from anybody in a self-defense situation or anybody that's tasked to take care of family members or friends, I think it's one of those things that you have to have different options in terms of how to escalate. Right.
Can't shoot everybody.
Tier. So you go from, and my first tier is always escape. But if you corner me or if my family's with me, I'll go from, if my family's with me, I'll go from 1 to 10 immediately. But if it's me, I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'll go up to those levels. But my first is always escape. But if my family's with me, it's no escape. It's you just messed with the wrong guy that day.
Right.
And
there's a difference between somebody coming at you, just acting all wacko that doesn't have a weapon that, maybe you need to create some space and hit him with the hot sauce, so to speak, as opposed to somebody with a weapon and really, threatening deadly force. So it's
because that's the point. It's the point of no return. Once you do it, it's then you open yourself up for lawsuits and all kinds of other stuff behind that, and the legal ramification. What if it happened in one of those counties where they have a liberal district attorney, and so now you're going to be fighting. You
don't want to be the guy that somebody's going to try to make his name on.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So if you can get out of the situation and run, that's always a good thing.
Right. And I know for a fact. This is why we like each other but what does the Second Amendment, how important is it for you? Because I surround myself with people like you.
Well, one of the most exciting things is about being with you guys is, your show, and God bless you guys, because how important is the Second Amendment? How about this? What do any of the other amendments matter without the Second Amendment? Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's right.
The whole reason for the Second Amendment is to guarantee the existence and carrying forward of all the other amendments and freedoms that this country was founded on.
That's right.
Unfortunately, too many people today have been so dumbed down by the system. They don't even teach this stuff in school anymore. Kids don't have any idea of constitutional law or right. I mean, it's terrible. And then you get into this whole gun thing. It's like the gun thing. Okay, well, carrying a gun is one thing, but let's talk about what the Second Amendment really is. And we live in a world today where whether, just look at trying to get this show on air. I mean, censorship. I mean, you got attacks on everywhere you go. So how important the amendment is paramount.
Right.
And you guys talk about this stuff all the time, and I think you're doing a great service to the community and the country. And, all it takes is just trying to get one person exposed to something, and maybe they talk to a friend. And, that's how that's how it needs to happen.
Right.
Well, by us doing this, we have reached out to a lot of liberal Democrats, and they don't know what's going on in the political realm, and they have listened to the show, or I have done some blast on Instagram, and I've had Democrat people reach out to me and say, I'm a hardcore Democrat liberal, but now you have me thinking. You know what I'm saying? And
that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. That's what I'm just trying to do.
And that's the sad thing about the state of politics, right? Whether you're right or left or this or that, there's so much division that's created and conflict that's artificially created when really Americans are more united than people think.
Absolutely.
And it's not about being a liberal this or a conservative that. It's like, hey, let's all start to agree on what's something that's not even arguable. I mean, this is the Constitution. This is the founding of freedom. This is a country that was created as a way to get out from under tyranny.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's right.
So
that's
it's like
it was great.
debatable things. I don't care which side you stand on. You're not a politician, or you're not somebody. This gets down to a lot of these 2A fights and whatnot. It really comes down to taxation without representation, and I don't hear enough people saying that these days. I mean,
right.
American people are not represented. And when you start to have some of these battles over constitutional rights and this and that, and God forbid you have a constitutional convention, but these things are just not arguable. So it's like, hey, you guys don't represent the people if you don't even know constitutional law.
Right. And that's all by design. And that's the reason why they don't teach history. We don't, because they want things to repeat themselves. And you got ignorant people who don't even realize, and they've taken the same steps that somebody in 1932 made. And
just a new chapter of everybody wants to rule the world.
That's right.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And I know you do a lot of work on your guns, and you're working on your guns at a level I've never seen before. And I was like, you'd be like, oh, this is nothing, when you show me how to do your bolts and some of your stuff. And so what type of armor certifications do you have? I know you're up there in the food chain on that, because I see some of the pictures. You're down at HK taking these classes, and I'm like, look at this guy.
I've been really lucky. I feel really blessed to represent a manufacturer whose product I've loved since I was a little kid. And I just, what can you say? I love the product. I love representing the product. And from an armor standpoint, part of my involvement as a member of the shooting team is I've gotten to participate and do a lot of the armor training. And HK's brought that back. They're, as in any big organization, for a while there, that became law enforcement and military, blah, 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 government agency only, all this kind of stuff. And they really have brought back the civilian training classes. So with that, I've gotten to participate in all kinds of this training to where now I'm a certified armorer on the HK P7, the legacy P7 that everybody loves, the USP, which then also is the HK P30 series, the HK 45, HK 45C.
Oh, wow.
So that's VP9, the VP9, SK, all the VP40, the SK, the subcompact, the whole VP series, the roller lock guns, the MR 762, MR 556, which are the civilian versions of the HK 416, HK 417. So I know a thing or two about all the platforms that I shoot with.
Yeah, I see.
And I'm not an FFL, so I don't repair guns as a business. I can't take guns in, but there's nothing I enjoy more than helping people out. I've got a YouTube channel where a lot of people send me all kinds of questions and look for help, and I've got help videos on there, and I really enjoy just helping other people out in the HK world. There's a forum that's HK specific, hkpro.com, where I've been an active member there for 14 or 15 years now. I've learned a lot there, and I love being able to give back. And like you said, I like tinkering. So I used to be one of those guys that used to probably need a manual to screw a light bulb, man. And
right.
I think through tinkering with guns, it's kind of like I feel like I'm almost got some mechanic skills where I'm pretty good at figuring stuff out, where I used to be pretty much a certified nincompoop.
Right. That's pretty good.
Gun to do that for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a science. It's a science class all in itself.
Yeah, you just start. What can I do for this or that? Tweak this, tweak that. And with HKs, you don't have to do much, but there's it's kind of neat, the whole process. The mindset of an armorer of it's not just about fixing things; it's just knowing how to take it all down and diagnose things, and it's just fascinating. I love it.
Yeah, just to remember all those platforms and I see where you're coming from. Yeah, I've done the same thing with.
Fight dementia. It's a way to fight dementia.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I can see you can do that. You know.
Yeah, especially when you get into the MP5. I mean, there's so many different trigger groups in that platform alone.
Yeah, the burst pack is it's kind of like a Swiss watch, right? So it's that's a neat thing that is intimidating to many, and you can put me in a dark room blindfolded, and I could just feel all the parts and just take it all apart, put it back together. And
Right.
that's great. A little piece of machinery that you just look at and go, how in the hell did anybody? I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's been a lot of fun.
Do you hunt, Derek?
I used to hunt a lot. I grew up. My dad and I, every deer season that was camping time, and head to the woods and have campfires, cook out, and do deer camp and dove season. We were always out there for dove season. And I want to say, after I graduated college, that was when I had to kind of get serious about trying to pay bills since I was in love and got married. And so kind of hunting went by the wayside. And now I don't really hunt as much. I went out a few times with a joint friend that Alfonso knows, a guy here locally, Ron Herbert. And
yeah.
To be neighbors. And
yep.
I took him deer hunting a couple times. I saw some beautiful deer. They were walking underneath my stand, and I was like, I had no desire to shoot that. All I saw was my dog, and I was like, then the work begins. You got to drag it out.
You got to clean it. Yeah, it's a mess.
These things, and ever since then, I just kind of lost the interest. And now the only thing that I really enjoy hunting is I've got a buddy that down in South Georgia. He over the years has been acquiring a lot of farmland, and with that farmland come hogs in South Georgia, and of course they just farmland. So he's got all the night vision gear, thermal gear, and we'll go down there and just go out all night long and just stack them high. And then he calls some of the local churches, and they come grab them all in the morning and process them for the food banks.
Yeah, and that's good.
There's no messy work. It's just go out.
You're just doing the shooting. You just doing the eradication.
Yeah, so he's got some areas where he'll bait them and bring them in, but then there's a lot of these swamp areas that we'll go down there, and it's really kind of the thrill of the hunt because the first hog hunt I went on, I was lucky at the time to have an HK machine gun in my hand, and my buddy was shooting he had a bolt action 25-06, and we'd been hunting this big old monster pig. We'd heard it. We were tracking it through this old swampy dry pond where the cattle used to go. And it was getting to be dark, and we're like, God dang, we lost it. We're not going to find it. So we started to ease our way out. And sure enough, as the sun was setting, and it's that dusk, right, where it's just like you can kind of see. And we go to this food plot, and you can see this big black image on the other side of this field, about 50, 60 yards away. I mean, huge, right?
Hogzilla.
Yeah, all of a sudden it's like your heart's pounding. So I flick the switch to full auto. And he raises the scope, and he goes, holy shit. And next thing you know, this pig charges us. And he's going,
man.
Brr, 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 and the thing finally just drops. I mean, just, holes all through it, but it drops about 15 yards in front of us. Wow. I remember calling my wife going, oh, my God, this is incredible. So I don't think I can do deer hunting much anymore. That was
right.
Yeah, that was the ultimate right there.
It was the ultimate hunt. How do you top that? Yeah, and there were
exactly.
We were out in this field of soy or whatever the hell it was. I mean, there's nothing for me to go run up. It was do or die at that point in time.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize wild boar know how to dispatch a human for some reason or other. They know how to take their horns and bleed and cut your arteries on your legs, and that's what they're trying to do.
It dressed out at over 250 pounds. So for George's, that's on steroids.
Yeah,
it's not a baby Russian sparrow hog. That is on roids. That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
That was a big one.
That was truly a Godzilla.
That was a Godzilla.
Yeah,
and we've seen some big ones since then. So there's other ones out there. We've stacked a few other ones, but we've had a good time.
Yeah. Well, on the same line as hunters, speaking about hunters, and with your experience, do you think there's a difference between hunters and their gun ownership and competitive shooters and gun ownership, as far as in reference to the Second Amendment?
No, I think they're both the same, right? Two different forms of expression. And I think hunters, again, I grew up in a time where in Peachtree City, Georgia, I didn't go to McIntosh High School, but at McIntosh High School in Peachtree City, Georgia, if you went by that high school on any given day in the 80s, every truck in the parking lot had a 30-06 or a 30-30 or a 270 or a 243 or a shotgun hung proudly in the back window. You guys probably remember those.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in California, so we didn't have all.
Well,
I lived in Maryland, and I used to see that in the 80s. Yeah, around 86. Yeah.
Yeah. And Peachtree City at the time was, I don't want to say it was rural, but it was certainly more rural than it is now. And hunting was just, it was a way of life. And I think, again, hunting and fishing, those are basic life skills. But again, this war on freedom that we live in, where food is being attacked, farmland is being attacked. Look no further than the Netherlands and here in the United States, as they want to, force fake meat and Beyond Burgers and all this crap and chemical food. And I think hunters serve a massive service to the community, from game management to just people that want to eat real non-processed food. I mean, I love it. And I think from a 2A standpoint, it's just people expressing different forms of gun ownership, whether you're a competitive shooter or a hunter. There's sometimes overlap, but they're one and the same. They're one and the same.
Yeah.
And the reason why I brought that question up is that a lot of times when we deal with hunters, are willing to sacrifice, so to speak, like AR-15s. They say they have no need for AR-15. They have no need for quote unquote the
modern sporting rifle.
There you go. Exactly what I was going to say. The modern sporting rifle.
So, correct. That's right.
Right. So then it leaves us on an island. And what I always say to people like that is that you're splintering. You're allowing them to splinter us, because we're all gun owners, regardless if you have a musket. Well, okay. Now, black powder is a whole separate character. I had conversation with guys with black powder, and they have no need for anything modern. But that's a whole different story. But guys who hunt and competitive shooters and just the average gun owner, we're all in the same boat when it comes to the legality and the ability to own a firearm. At the end of the day, regardless if you're a bolt action or you have a semi-automatic or, in your case, full automatic, it's the same thing at the end of the day.
It's a tool. That's all it is.
And I think that we need to be more galvanized than we are to say, well, we don't need that, and start to say, well, if you get rid of bump stock, so what? I didn't like those anyway. If you get rid of pistol caliber rifles, I didn't like those anyway. Well, one day they're going to say all of them, and you're going to be in the category.
Right? Where does it stop?
Right.
Yeah, well, it stops in November, hopefully. Hopefully it stops in November, because this is it. If
It's a turning point.
1808 passes, if we don't change the Senate this November, if 1808 passes, we're done. All guns are gone, because that bill is listing every single one of them except the bump stocks, and ATF is going to make their ruling in December after November 8th, if you notice that.
Well, they're going to constantly come after the guns. That's part of the agenda. And, this is where states matter.
Right.
Who's the highest constitutional authority? Do you guys know?
Well, it's not the president.
Supreme Court.
Supreme Court.
The sheriff.
Sheriff.
So the sheriff reports to his constituents only. He doesn't report to the FBI, the GBI, the governor, the president.
They make the county law, but however, the cities override the sheriff's ordinance, but the sheriff won't prosecute the county ordinance. So,
well, there's a lot to be said here, because if you take a look at, this is where it goes back to know your sheriff. And it's not like this is the cure and the be all for end all, but the big thing that that's important to understand is, when you hear stories about states that are saying they're not going to enforce any more federal restrictions, I mean, you're seeing a lot of fractures, where it's just like, stop with the nonsense, people, because they're going to keep coming for them and crazy stuff. So more than ever, it's just very important to know who your sheriff is, and different counties do different things. It's important to engage a sheriff. Um, More so than ever. And this is where you live matters. And you take Georgia, we're in Georgia, and I would say Georgia has historically been more of a representative of a constitutional republic state with a very firearm friendly and constitutional friendly government. Of course, that's up for debate.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the numbers are in Georgia. I know the Tennessee Firearms Association. I know this is a fact, and this is the type of stuff that you'd like to see in a strong constitutional state. You'd like to see a statistic like Tennessee has, where over 50% of voters in every district are gun owners. Can you imagine if we had that here in Georgia?
Right.
Well, we have some cities like Kennesaw, where it's mandatory.
Right.
Cobb County is not that way. I live in a county, and so the sheriffs is very important to me here, but they just voted in one that's on the opposite side last year.
So now you hear about 87,000 new IRS agents, and which are enforcers of the feds. And the point is, if somebody were to show up with no warrant and claim to be IRS and yada yada,
who do you call?
Who do you call? You call the sheriff.
You call the sheriff.
You don't call your local police department. You call your sheriff.
Makes good sense.
Counties matter. So it's going to be very important for people to start thinking about, hey, how do I engage locally with my sheriff?
Right.
Because the sheriff could say, "Get out of my county. I don't want you in my county," especially if they're not in. Yeah, especially if they're not in. You're not in. If you're enforcing a rule that a sheriff is say you're not going to do in my county. For instance, New York, when they tried to pull the Maine, no gun law in those areas like downtown New York,
gun-free zones.
There were 12 sheriffs in that area who all said, "We're not enforcing those laws." So I don't know what you guys are going to do, and so. But the sheriffs can kick out the local police out of their jurisdiction.
They have a lot of power.
They have a lot of power. They oversee that jurisdiction. But in the meantime, it has to be before the city police get to you. Because if the city police get to you first, they're going to prosecute you before the sheriffs get there. But if the sheriffs can get there and stop them in midstream, then nothing happens. But once
sheriff authority really comes in more even over, and I'm not a full constitutional lawyer, but I know enough here to be a little bit dangerous. But this is where it really comes into the federal stuff. Right now we see stories constantly about FBI agents supposedly showing up and doing this or doing that, and a lot of times these people don't have warrants, etc. So there's not much a sheriff's going to probably do if there's a warrant. But when you have like threats of this stuff that we constantly hear and see going on. The point is, you don't have to open a door, and the first person to get on the phone with would be your sheriff. So this is where it's just important in communities to know some of these people. And we live in a time where everybody claims to be so busy. Nobody knows. They don't know anybody. People don't take the time to get involved and engage in understanding who their local representatives, and that's a problem that we have in society. So,
and that's what we keep preaching. Everybody needs to go at the local level first before you think of the national level, because the local levels is the ones that's going to hurt you the most.
Right. So it's important to be in a strong jurisdiction going forward.
I do support where states are doing sanctuary states for the Second Amendment. There's 15 of them so far, and they're still growing because each state has their own government and their own National Guard, their own military force besides the National Guard. They don't have to use federal soldiers. So for a entity, if they say they're a sanctuary state, they can't enforce any federal laws that come into that state, and you're protected as long as you're a resident of that state. And so if the federal government was to try to come in like ATF, FBI, and try to enforce confiscation rule from 1808, they can stop them and say, you can call your local authorities and have them stop. Right. And so that is a big plus. And I wrote our senators here trying to see if they're fielding that out, but they're not even thinking about it right now. And
this goes back to the big issue today that I can't say enough as I talk to friends and family and people when they want to talk about politics. Too many people want to get hung up on right and left and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really just as simple as, do these representatives represent their constituents? I mean, we've even got videos of representatives saying, yes, I'm going to do exactly what XYZ big industry tells me, and I'm not going to do what my constituents want. And that's not okay. That's not okay.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then that person's reelected.
Yeah, we're in some dangerous times right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I'd be an old man before this ever. Well, I'm an old man now anyway, but I thought I'd be almost 1 foot in the grave. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we got kids and future generations. We want to have a great, bright future and be able to grow up and do great things and have freedoms and know what we know is freedoms. And that means a lot, I know, to all three of us.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys have dedicated your whole show on a lot of this stuff, which is fabulous.
Yeah. And we challenge folks to, make challenge us, you know what I'm saying? And but a lot of people can't challenge us. So and I really don't care if they do or they don't, but just have their facts.
Good talk is always healthy. Exactly. A lot of times people just have sound bites and nothing to back up their thought patterns, and then they just get mad. I mean, then you talk to them about things, they just get frustrated and get mad, and they can't even have a big boy conversation. So it's
and that's why I left Facebook.
A little bit of a First Amendment problem there, I think, right?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. They was on me, man. Go ahead, Al.
But you weren't. The problem was he wasn't lying. That's the key.
No,
it wasn't lying.
But they were really.
I was trying to stay on the same stream. I mean, we got a good conversation going on with this.
Yeah, we do.
But, I want to say also, I'm going to ad hoc here a little bit and just say that I watch a lot, and if you correct me if I'm wrong, I watch a lot, but a lot of competitive shooters and a lot of guys who are nationally known do not come forward like you're doing right now and mentioning the Second Amendment and we always say when we're having conversations, maybe not on air, but we always say, this is their bread and butter in some cases. Why don't they speak up and say, even just a thumbs up? You don't have to get on a platform or anything. Just say, yeah, I agree with you, but we don't hear it. We don't see,
I can name about a handful of those guys that don't do anything, but I'm not going to name them.
Right.
I'm tired of pointing at you guys.
Right.
Start
and
start being vocal.
Like what you said, what we're doing. We know we have a small group of guys that we pretty much see every weekend, but we're building, right? And we're doing something to continue to put this effort to let people know, not only the people who watch, but also politicians, that there are people out there that want to continue to be gun owners and support the Second Amendment. But then we have guys who have bigger platforms that just don't say anything.
Well, they'll get shut down. You look at some of the hosting platforms, you know what they are. And, it's so bad now you can't even say their names on their platforms. Otherwise, they shut you down. And they've gotten so big that they're not just an app. They're arguably, a much needed communication company. And the censorship's out of control, and people need to talk about it and face it and deal with it, and that's where it means leaving platforms, et cetera. And those are good things to do. The problem is, where do you go? Because a lot of it is all centrally controlled. So it's very hard to have honest conversations, and that's not healthy. That's not what this country's founded on. I mean, that's, again, taxation without representation, Second Amendment. There are no other amendments without the Second Amendment. These are just, things that, there's no debate around this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not at all. So with that, I'm going to ask you, and we'll shift gears again. And how often do you practice, Derek?
Well, we are, my wife and I are empty nesters. This August, my youngest went off to school. So now maybe I'll have more time to practice, but I really don't. I'm not a practicer. So as you guys know, it's like you can shoot 7 days a week in the metro Atlanta area. I mean, there's a match every day or every night somewhere. And I usually try to use a lot of the local matches for my practice. I like to, if I'm gonna practice, I'd rather practice with a timer on me and the stress of competition and having to do everything that you do at a big match. And like I said, I just don't enjoy punching holes in paper and and going out there. So I don't practice a whole lot. I shoot local matches for practice. That's kind of been my thing for a long time.
Okay. So do you find it when you say that? Is there any particular drills that you're interested in?
So if I do get a chance to go
that
practice,
prefer more than the other, right?
yeah, with a pistol. So I've been really lucky to through my daughters and through some of the kids that live in the neighborhood. I've tried to help a lot of young shooters get involved in competition shooting, and I can say I've helped several young guys get in and kind of get the bug. And when I help them out, usually what I like to do with a pistol is, I try to preach to these younger guys how important it is to get really good with a pistol first, because it's the hardest. A lot of people shoot your rifle really good, really fast, but not everybody can pick up a pistol and be worth a toot with it without some significant work.
Right.
So,
Right.
Some of the things I really like to work on, whether it be with some of these young men or even for myself, is to always kind of find my mojo on a plate rack. I love shooting. If I'm going to go out and practice, I like to do some runs on a plate rack. I also, with a pistol, love to do the dot torture. That's such a great way of just, you can start up really close and move back and practice it from. You can draw on the target. You can just do it low ready. You can just bounce along and go right on. There's all kinds of ways to do it. But as far as trigger control and trigger press and reset, and all the basics, there's nothing better. With the rifle at River Bend, where I'm a member, we're really fortunate to have a couple ranges that go out to 600 yards. And, in 3-gun, it's really important to know your dope. And you have all different size targets at all different ranges. So that's always a good thing to practice with the rifle is really working on different size targets at different distances and making sure that, you know what your holds are and how the wind is going to impact your rounds, etc.
Cool. So I'm going to skip ahead of you. You prepped you earlier, but what about advice that you would give somebody who's interested in becoming a competitive shooter? When we listened to you earlier, as you said, you were moving along and you kind of had a marriage with HK in that you came together. So how would you suggest if somebody really wants to be a sponsored competitive shooter, and I know in most cases people should get out and compete first and then look for a sponsorship. You got to be able to prove what you can do. But what would your suggestion be?
Yeah, so a couple ways to answer that question. So the first part of that question would be, how do you kind of get competitive? And that would be to kind of go the route that I did, where it's just get started, like anything in life, right? Even like a young man getting out of college or a young woman getting out of college, just get started, meaning go to matches. Don't do this stuff. If I'm going to go and watch for a little bit or this, that, take what gear you've got, go to a match. Find the better shooters. Find the people that, it's real obvious who the good ones are when you go to a match.
Yeah.
And be sure you squad with them. Be sure you watch them. Be sure you ask questions. Be sure you learn. When I first started, and Alfonso knows him, I kind of always put the mark on Rob Romero, who was a phenomenal shooter, wow. Just talk about a guy with talent, right?
Yeah.
And, you shoot with people like that. You watch, you learn, you ask questions. And then as you get better and better, you start, trying to beat them on stages and then beat them in matches. And probably the most meaningful win I've had was last year, winning the Georgia State USPSA championship and beating Rob Romero in PCC to do it. So that was kind of a big reward in terms of my career.
Right.
But then as far as like a lot of the sponsorship stuff, I played college golf, and I've always said I don't understand the shooting world, because when we shoot, or like when all of us go to matches, for some reason there's this thought process in the shooting world that I just can't relate to, where it's like, for some reason, a lot of people that shoot think that just because they shoot, some manufacturers or people that make things should be giving them all kinds of free stuff. I've never in my life, I've never seen this in any other sport. I've never seen this. But for some reason in shooting, it's like, hey, because I shoot a Glock, I should get free guns and ammo, and Saber Team should be sending me all kinds of stuff for my phone for free.
Right.
I shouldn't have to pay for any of this. I've never seen this mentality anywhere. So it's like, okay, if somebody's getting really good at shooting, I can't relate to the mindset. It's like, holy smokes, if there's manufacturers or companies that you love, will go honestly and go use their products and represent them, and odds are they're going to seek you out.
Right.
And the problem
Right.
is, in shooting, I see all kinds of social media stuff where people couldn't tell you what spring goes where on what gun, and yet they're, this is the best gun of my life. And then
Right.
3 weeks later,
There's
there's a new one. This is the
right.
best gun of
Oh,
my life. I mean, it's like this.
I know who you're talking about.
And then you got people
There's
that
a lot of them.
in social media that know what the hell they're doing in shooting, that have like 500 followers, and then you got
Right.
people, don't even know how to tie their shooting shoes or lace up their gym bag, so to speak, and they got 500,000 followers. That's
Right.
just nonsense. So it's like, I would say to anybody getting involved, be very careful who you listen to.
Yeah. Be very careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I can see where that would lead you as well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And you guys watching the stream, keep asking your questions, and we're gonna get a moment
get
where he
them,
can answer your questions. So just keep asking questions if you guys have them.
I see some questions coming in. I've been talking to you guys. I haven't been reading.
No. We'll put them
it's
on
okay.
air. We'll get to them.
We'll broadcast them in a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the other things, let's go back a little bit, is I watched, I think it was Facebook that I saw it on, where your neighbor came in fourth. Was that something you set up? You told him he couldn't come in first.
Oh yeah, this is my neighbor down the street. I'm so proud of him. He comes from a family that they're not necessarily all big shooters, but he and his brother have grown up around guns, and their dad's a cowboy, and this one young man, I mean, he's even done rodeo and lassoing cows. It's like, this dude is a dude, right? I mean,
man's man.
I just came back from college over the weekend, and this is typically see guys with these phones and they're doing TikTok, and I'm just like, I can't even relate anymore. So, but anyway, kid's super cool, and he wanted to get better, so I've taken him under the wing a little bit. We've been going to matches, and I'm just, I'm trying to teach him about how to stage plan and this and that. And he's been working hard on his shooting, and so really neat at River Bend. We had the annual Zombie 3-gun match, and this kid kicked some serious butt, and he came in 4th overall, had his best thing. And next thing you know, Alfonso, you can relate to this. It's like, next thing you know, he's home. He's like, I can do this better. Maybe I need to get this little thing from the holster. It's just, I'm doing this into a life of poverty, because it's like between ammo prices and all the accessories you need. It's like this. All he can do is just like it's just on his brain how he's going to get better. And I love that because he's a student of the sport, and this is what I love about athletes, where they don't just think that they can buy a great gun and be good. I mean, they actually, in their own time, they go seek out other people, or like you guys doing training, and they're constantly trying to get better and seek other opinions. How do I build skill, and how do I learn more? And they're doing it on their own. I'm not having to force feed it, or you're not having to force feed it. It's like, those are the type of students you want, where it's like they just have their own thirst to be better. And I love that. I love that. That's an energizing type person to be around. I love those type people.
That's cool.
Exactly. That's great, man. And you can mentor him. I mean, that's something I didn't have when I was growing up. Being
Is that why you bought that High Point?
I didn't buy a High Point. Get out of here! I never bought a High Point.
That's his drop gun.
No, I bought. Yeah, it is. The drop gun is actually a 1911.
Oh, no.
I can't say why on air, but
probably because it has polygonal rifling, so they can't track or do any of the ballistics on it. I know you. You're smart.
Well, there's a story behind that one in real life that happened. I'll tell you about it one of these days. And I did buy I bought Ruger P89 and a P90. So that was the High Point in its day, So the Rugers, crappy Rugers, couldn't hit anything with them because the trigger was so sloppy. By the time you pull the trigger, you're pointing all the way down.
There is a difference between a nice trigger and a bad one. That's right.
Yes, there is.
I want to thank you again, Derek, because I wrote that website down, by the way. Both of y'all can.
What website down?
Nothing.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
okay.
After you, yeah.
I'm going to pull the trigger on that tonight. But see, he's not. You still got any more, Al?
Yeah. So when you look at, we talked about the advice, and then outside of being a sponsor shooter, And we talked about this earlier too. Your support for the Second Amendment. It goes across the board. It's not just because you're a competitive shooter, and we already alluded to. You may or may not carry a firearm for self-defense, but I respect that. What else would you suggest other folks that are watching and listening do in reference to supporting the Second Amendment,
Yeah,
other than buy a gun?
But even that is support, right? It's like, can you imagine if we could get 52% of Georgians to all own firearms? And we might already be there. I just don't know if the
I
statistics.
think we're in the last 3 years, 16 billion guns have been sold. Not billion, million guns.
But what I'm saying is about the mindset, because it's like gun ownership is a good thing. Being able to defend yourself is a good thing. We live in a world right now where it's defund the police, open borders, crime. I mean, you can't deny the facts. I mean, these are just facts. Okay, so open borders, defund the police. Crime is escalating everywhere. You actually have laws that are in place that favor bad guys. Okay, that's really scary stuff. If you were to have a problem in this defund the police era, where you're trained to just call somebody for help instead of the shoot house mindset of nobody's coming to save you.
Right.
What if you have somebody, violent criminals breaking into your house at 1 o'clock in the morning with baseball bats? They don't even have to have guns. What if they have machete and axes, like you're reported in attacks right now? You want to wait 5 minutes for local law enforcement to show up? If you've got kids in your house or things you need to protect, I don't think that's those violent people shouldn't be at your door, right?
Right.
So how do people get involved? Well, it's taking responsibility is one thing, but I still like the idea of people being involved and engaged. I just think is so important now more than ever, and that's never going to happen. So I guess that's kind of unreasonable.
It's the best case scenario. I got you. That's the best case scenario.
Best case scenario. So what can people do? Well, even if it's a small thing of like what I do, engage a young person, engage a neighbor, engage another fellow shooter, and talk about things, and invite the conversation, invite open, honest conversation. And then if that grows, invite bigger groups to talk, because then as more people talk, then, a sheriff or local law enforcement, or much less a politician, you don't know what money might be influencing that politician, but he's not going to listen to one person, but he's going to listen to a big group.
Right.
So it's really banding together and working and trying to build up, locally, and the whole mindset. And sadly, I keep bringing up youths, but it's like, man, oh man, these kids are being conditioned that guns are bad, guns are bad, guns are bad. And they're not even learning that, like, hunting and fishing are basic life skills. I mean, come on. What is going on here, parents?
That's because we have Kroger and Publix right down the street.
Yeah, and that didn't always exist, right? And what happens if
yes.
power goes out? What happens if something bad happens and you've got to get food? I mean, these are basic.
That's when they grab that gun and come take your food. So that's their mindset, because now we're seeing, and I know you've seen it on the range too, Al. There's a lot of people that's coming and taking training from us who are first-time gun owners, and when you ask them their political. What do they favor in the political side? They mostly are Democrats. They're hardcore Democrats. Then you ask them, why are you buying the gun? Well, I need to protect my family. You know what I'm saying? Then you ask them, what provisions are you going through to protect your family? Well, I just need a gun to protect my family. And they haven't even thought about how it's going to play out. And that's the scary part about it.
But again,
it doesn't work that way.
Does it matter if they said I'm a Republican or I'm an independent? The point is, you're an American. And there's this thing the country was founded on, the governing document called the United States Constitution. As part of that, we have some rights that are undeniable. And one of those guarantees the rest. And that's the Second Amendment. I don't care if you're a libertarian, a Republican, a Democrat. But it's only in recent times that we've had this wedge formed where it's like, Democrats just want handouts, they're anti-gun, and no, this is all propaganda. So it's just where people are being mind controlled, like I can't even believe anymore. I mean, they're not even, I'm an American, and this is what we're down. These are things that we don't argue over.
Right. I definitely appreciate that.
That's what's so sad to me to watch.
Right, and because I've had a few come out to the range and had, my political affiliation for the Second Amendment Constitution is on my sleeve, so I don't care.
Your forehead.
On my forehead? Get out of here. Yeah, I don't care if they come out and say they're a Democrat or whatever. You can come out to the range. I'll train you, but you're going to listen to what I have to say because I'm going to school you on the Second Amendment and what's taking place today. You can do it whatever you want with it, that information after I give it to you. You can hate me or whatever, but now we're going to learn something. If you don't want to come back out to the class, that's fine with me. I have a problem with that, but I'm going to show you something that you've never seen in your entire life, and a lot of people a lot of them will understand that to a great point, and we have had return students because of that, and just being honest, and I don't try to talk at them. I'm just giving you information. You can take it for what you want.
Good for you for doing that. That's huge, and that's one. If everybody did one small thing like that, what a difference!
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Those are the things that we look at when you see people who are new and they come out and buy a firearm, and then their political affiliations are such that you'll be the first one in line turning your guns in. And I've had people tell me that if it came to it, that I will turn it in and I'm like,
yeah, they won't stand for what the Second Amendment stands for. They'll give them up. I had that happen to me too. They said, I'll turn them in,
Yep.
and I'm not ready to die. And I was like,
and it's the same person that tells you that where do I go to register them? You don't want that. And then you have to explain to them why a registry is bad. And they don't get it because they're looking to feel comfortable to let the government know that I have this, this, and this, and this is where I keep it, and this is how much I have of it. No, you don't have to do that.
And these are not just young
folks. History are doomed to repeat it, right? I mean,
right.
So this is basic history 101.
These are not just young folks. These are people in their 30s and 40s, or some our age. And
look at the warrior spirit in the country. Okay, there's a big difference between the warrior spirit today than when I was a young man. Okay. Yeah. And right now I can honestly say, as I go around, I can see a lot of people that look and resemble whipped dogs that would just roll over on their back and wet themselves at the first time. And that's not good. That's not a warrior spirit. In this country, as, whether it be an Indian tribe or whatever, I'm talking about the warrior spirit. Okay.
Right.
And that's what's very sad to see, that in so many people they're just whipped dogs. I mean, it's just.
Well, you mentioned it earlier, and you guys were talking about it when you're mutual friends and a man's man, that kind of thing. Those things are being taken away now. You can't be, you can't be a man's man. You got to be some guy that's in the middle, cries at the end of the movies, that kind of dude.
Well, there's plenty of room for all those kinds of dudes. But
politically correct. That's good, but I like that. I like that, Derek. That
Nothing wrong with the guy who cries at the movies. I mean, I've shed a few tears, but you know what I'm saying. I'm just talking about
I do. I'm just
certain things that are just not up for debate, and it's time that people just finally take a position. Like, I'm sorry, this is just not. Who do you represent? Because you don't represent the people if you're talking like that.
Right.
There's not enough people who stand up and say that, and it's just these politicians do all these non-answers and garbly goop, and again, it all comes back to taxation without representation is tyranny. So
right.
Start talking like that. I mean, who do these people represent? Answer it.
Right. Yeah,
exactly.
the pockets. So this time we're going to turn the questions over to our viewers and
I like that
put something up. And here's one for you. Derek, would you suggest a newbie get into competitive shooting, and what league? Or
100%. I think if somebody were to go to my buddy Martin's Firearms, Marty is a great dude, Riverbend member, and Alpharetta, so plug for him. But he's got all kinds of great tools, guns, or whatever to get into competition shooting with. That somebody could go into his shop. Let's say they got something that's competition ready and can roll into something. For a handgun, I'll tell anybody IDPA is the sport you have to get into, because some sports like golf, you want to learn how to hit it hard as you can and as far as you can and worry about controlling it later. In shooting, speed kills. If you don't have the proper fundamentals, you can't add speed. And IDPA is a a shooting sport where you move, like my buddy Chris Farnan says, who's on the HK team with me, whereas US is a movement sport where you shoot. So you want to learn how to really build your fundamentals, and then you can start to apply speed. So for somebody who, is a first-time firearm owner, even, absolutely go to an IDPA match, because you're going to learn all the basic gun handling skills. They're super great people. The community, I think you'd agree, Alfonso, is warm and bring people in.
Yeah.
You don't have a holster or this or that. They'll loan it to you.
I've had guys let me borrow guns, ammunition. And I'm like,
I've loaned out belts. I had one. I can't remember where it was, but it was out South River, and we were swapping belts because he didn't bring a belt, and I just at every stage I would give him my belt to use. And
what a community! Aren't these the type of people somebody want to be around in the first place? I mean, that's awesome. I mean, so IDPA, jump into that and then build it from there. But that's something that is a great way to build your skills.
Let's get our next question up here. This is go ahead and read down now. I'm gonna put up the
I have a VP9 SK with a red dot. Would you recommend? I am looking to do some modification. What would you recommend?
So Alfonso said I like to tinker and do all this kind of stuff with the VP series. That's the beauty of buying a VP9. You don't have to tinker with anything. So I would
so it's like perfection.
It's perfection in the box. Exactly right. No compromise.
My God.
No compromise. So,
my God.
Well, let's compare two brands. It's like somebody buys a Glock, which is an absolutely fantastic firearm. Fantastic firearm. So this is not a knock on Glock. But the reality is the trigger that comes on that is undeniably, a combat defense type trigger that even Glock knows a competition shooter is going to change entirely or tweak. Right. If somebody's going to carry it, it's a great trigger for carry. It's just not a real pleasant trigger to shoot for all purpose. You compare that with the VP series trigger, and it's this isn't just me talking, but anybody will tell you, compared to the Glock trigger out of the box, it's an unbelievable trigger. And what we found at HK is it's a gun because the trigger's so good that even new shooters can pick it up for the first time and be very accurate with it and shoot it very well. And that's just because the trigger is a lot smoother break and reset than the Glock. So for a VP, don't ruin the gun by changing everything out, because there's really not much that you're going to do to enhance that gun, especially for what the VP9 SK is. It's more of a carry defensive type pistol. Or even in competition, the trigger that's on that's more than adequate. You've got the plates for the different optics that you can put on that gun. There's nothing to change. That's the beauty of that gun. You can buy it, and you don't have to spend $300 more to like tweak this and tweak that. And blah, blah, blah. So
there you go, Rick. I'll be messing with that gun. It's also the phone line's open too, guys, if you guys want to call.
And also with that gun, isn't that the one with the palm swells and the grip adapter in the rear?
So the VP series has got an adaptable grip. So you got side plates in the rear palm swell, so it can be adjusted to all different size hands. And that's where I don't have the biggest of big hands, but I use large all the way around, large side panels, large rear. But, for someone like my wife, I've got the smaller side panels and smaller backstrap on, and she's got a better purchase on the gun. So it's something that you can just, fit to the user and figure out what you like best.
You ever sell cars, Derek?
Excuse me?
Have you ever sold cars?
Oh, that's a funny story. You want the truth on that? In college, I graduated college, and like most young men, it's like I didn't know what the hell I was going to do, and but I'd met my future wife, and so it was like I got to get to work. And at the time, I had interviewed with Titleist and some other financial. I had all kinds of balls up in the air, and I was like, I got to make some money. So back then, in the Stone Ages, we actually had newspapers, and we had this thing called the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and it had this job section, right? So I'm looking through this thing. I'm just trying to find something. Like, I got to make money. And I remember reading this ad for like this car dealership. You can make $60,000 your first year. I was like, holy shit, right? So I went in there, and they're like, I think just because I could breathe and sign my name, they're like, all right, you're hired. So first day, within like 10 minutes of getting to work, it's like next thing you know, I've got this old lady driving this Ford Mustang, and she's like, got to have it. And I didn't know what to do. And these like two meth addicts or something stole the sale from them. I'm watching this whole thing. And I remember going, this isn't my world. So I went home that night. My future wife was at my parents' house at the time, and I got to the top of their driveway, and I rolled down my window, and I had a white golf towel in the back, and I waved the white towel out the window, like I surrender, and I pulled down. I was like, I quit. I couldn't do that.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Fortunately, I was a car salesman for one day.
Well, I
Wow.
appreciate that because you
Yeah.
just sold me on that VP9 bro. That's what I was going to
It's
say.
a great gun. It's a
Yeah.
great gun.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Rick again. He was
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, he was talking about the conversation we were having about people who don't participate in reality, and he said those kind of liberals are dismissing logic. Don't waste your time with them.
I agree.
Yeah.
Some people you just can't engage. It's not worth
You
Some
can't.
people, yeah, you can't reach them.
And you
I don't
don't
care
even
what-
know what some of those crazy type people are getting paid to do and say anymore. I mean, they could be
Right.
on the from somewhere too. So it's just
Mhm.
if they can't wrap their brain around what this country was founded on, they're not worth engaging. I mean,
Right.
they're lost soul.
I
Sorry.
mean, some of them are agent provocateurs and they're instigators that just try to stir up things.
That's right.
Mhm. All
That's a
right.
long one. He says he thinks all instructors should start being more selective on who they share knowledge with. And when it comes to firearms, some people don't support the Constitution. You're absolutely right.
But how do you know? How do you know? I mean,
You don't.
Yeah.
You
don't.
You can't vet them, and by you start vetting people like that, you know your margins are already slim. So you start doing that, you're cutting a lot of meat out of your budget.
Yeah,
There's
and I
always
have,
going to be good guys. There's always going to be bad guys, and you're never going to be able to fully vet.
and we know some people on the left who are Second Amendment supporters
Absolutely.
and Constitutional supporters. And I've told them, I said, you're not my enemy. We're all in this together. But if you need a place of refuge, you can come to my house as long as you still support the Second Amendment. Now, if you don't support it, it's going to be a problem, or the Constitution. But and I should have that warm and fuzzy from you if something happened, and I need a place to hunker down. You know what I'm saying?
Who do you represent? Who do you represent?
Yeah, who do you represent? Me, it's the Constitution all the way.
But you also, in this day and age, what we're finding more of, people are aligning themselves no different than people like this baseball team versus that baseball team. They really have not investigated what these different parties stand for. They just know that mom was this, dad was this, so I'm going to be this. They don't look any further for their own self.
And that's what I keep trying to bring up to people. That's fine. It's not right and left, red and blue. Okay, those are the nuances on some of the beliefs. Okay, and today's world of uniparty that a lot of people would argue, it probably matters less than ever. But the thing that people have to start agreeing to agree on is what are the founding principles. I mean, this is where we get into this whole thing of white community, black community, Asian community, Latino. I mean, no, we're Americans. We're supposed to be Americans first. Okay, and it's okay to preserve your certain mini cultures within, but let's get back to what made America? What do we have to agree on here? And this is where they don't even teach this stuff in school anymore.
No. So yeah, it's hard to agree on something if they don't even teach it. So makes life very difficult for the rest of us. You guys listening? You guys got any more questions? You guys went to sleep. So if you got any questions you want to ask at this time, we're going to go ahead and share where you can find Derek itself. He has an IG page, and also there he is on his IG page. He's got a lot of followers. He talks about some good stuff. You can see him in action and the life of Derek. And but his main page is his YouTube page. And that's amazing page. So you guys want
information for any HK users there, just as far as some of the firearms they might have, they might find some of our videos.
I mean, you got tons of videos. You can go down his videos and you can see all the HK platforms he's working on. He's tearing apart his shooting. He can give you his tips. Ideals. I mean, he's just laying it down here. All this wild knowledge. I remember this match right here. I was there. And I was there on this one. Yeah.
Yep.
And that one too. There are quite a few matches on it. And so if you guys go ahead and follow him and support him, support his page,
Yep.
and get all that good knowledge from it.
And another thing, just to add on, is I asked him personally, and he answers both of them himself. So if you reach out to him or you leave a message, he will respond to him personally, not some guy that's down the hall. He will respond to him.
Don't have any bots.
Right. All right, here we go. Omar.
Yeah, teaching unified American classrooms and the history of the Constitution and how it works is frowned upon.
And that's sad.
And he's a teacher. Well,
yeah,
sort of.
Yeah.
So again, look at the teachers. I feel very sorry for a lot of teachers today. I mean, they want to do the things they know that are right. They get into a lot of trouble, and it all comes back to follow the money.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where, again, parents are getting more involved than ever, and local school boards and this, that, and that's what it takes. I mean, people get involved again, and for a long time, they're just, been a lot of things ignored.
Mm-hmm. So, Derek, I'm going to read this one louder. Okay. I'm glad and surprised you guys got a HK shooter on, because you guys hated on my HK for the longest.
That's normal. That's normal.
We didn't hate on the HK. We hated on you.
They were jealous. They won't tell you that. They were just jealous. I mean, Alfonso had that fancy Ruger he was shooting, and he just
when I started shooting, when I got into shooting, I was carrying an HK subcompact. It was a what do you call it?
The P30 SK.
No,
the
other one.
80?
USP.
90s?
Oh, USP.
USP
contact problem.
So it was a double action, and I have a damaged right hand, so I couldn't pull the trigger too well.
Totally
Every time I do it, it shake, and so I got turned on the Glock by some guys, and my hand didn't shake, so I just sold that HK and it's like never looked back. And
I don't blame you. The double action only trigger. Ugh. Gosh.
Yeah.
Right.
And double action guns for me is a no in my right hand. So,
but that those trigger groups come out of requirements from whether it be law enforcement or military stuff. So again, that whole big heavy trigger when you're under stress, as you guys know as trainers, a 7, 8, 9, 10-pound trigger that would feel awful on any given day doing target shooting can quickly become a much lighter trigger with a lot of adrenaline pumping through.
Right. Yeah. You won't let it go.
Right. In law enforcement, you've got a lot of folks that don't train to very high levels. And if you give them hair triggers or very lightweight triggers,
you can have bullets all over the place. And they got to account for all those rounds.
Exactly.
And it also helps when defending in court when it becomes a definitive shot. As opposed
maybe not. I think you're still going to lose if they don't like you, right? I mean, they'll come at you.
I've seen it in firsthand, so I understand. But I've heard it many years ago, and that was one of the arguments was, especially revolvers, having a consistent trigger pull out on each and every round, as opposed to double action, single action. And at the time, the guy was he was a police officer. And I don't know why he did it, but he cocked a Beretta 92 FS into single action, and then the gun went off. But then he said he was trying to let the bad guy know that don't play around, and he was being serious. But you shot.
Well, but think about this. This goes back to what again you guys do. You're going to perform at your lowest level of training and stress, right? So if you think about that double action gun, if he's got his finger on the trigger and he's pulling the hammer back, it's just biomechanics that your trigger finger is going to pull that trigger back as you're pulling. So that's what it's like, there's a lot of things that can go wrong if you're not trained.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Training is key.
Training is key.
Training is key. So with that, I want to thank Derek for coming on the show and having this
good to be with you guys.
Amazing conversation that we had. No, I want to thank you guys.
The community, you guys rock. So thank you guys.
And I want to thank you guys for watching and asking these questions too. We have a class. Okay, there we go. Before I say that, we have a class, rifle tactical gear class. It's coming up. We had technical issues earlier, so we couldn't get on. Some reason or another to kick this off and other stuff. But we was talking about the rifle tactical gear class. You guys are in the chat watching and stuff, some of you guys haven't taken this class and some of you guys have. This is a class I taught on active duty, and I developed this class on active duty, and I teach it to the civilian on the civilian level. I just took the explosives parts out, the machine gun parts out, and but you will learn something totally different. It's going to test your gear. It's an advanced class. Be ready to work when you come out to that class. So I still got 4 slots still open. So you better get out there. Only take 6 people for this class. So sign up. Quit being starts with a P. Quit being starts with a
P. You can say pansy. It's the same thing.
Ends with a Y. So quit being that. You need to you need to sign up and get out here and learn something. And all right, there you go, Al.
Yeah, best advice Derek gave me about competitive shooting: treat every match as if it was just another training day at the range. Won my 2nd championship this year. Good advice.
Congratulations. That is good job listening. That's the way to do it. So congratulations. Congratulations. Is that Bubba there chiming in?
That's Agent X.
Overt Ops.
Right.
There you go. Great show.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And I think there's one more here.
That was it. You went past it. That's
okay.
it.
Thanks, you. Awesome show as usual. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it. And thank you guys. And keep watching. Like and share this video so we can get it up. Get the numbers up. And, it's been going. A lot of people are not on the live tonight, but a lot of people have been there. We got a lot of ninja watchers, and they watch the show after, so the numbers usually go up. And there you go. He says, "Thank you, Derek."
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, guys. Yep. We'll see you on the range, and if anybody needs help with HKs, just hit me up, and happy to try to help you in any way I can. Okay.
Yep. There you go, guys. See you on the range.
See you on the range, guys.